My name is Don Marsh, and I'm a member of CENSE. I'd like to share a critical look at PSE's Energize Eastside project. Energize Eastside is a proposal to upgrade an existing 115 kilovolt transmission line to 230 kilovolts. The line will run through 4 Eastside cities: Redmond, Bellevue, Newcastle, and Renton. PSE will run 6 power wires plus 2 data cables on steel poles up to 130 feet high. We would like to show you a photo of what that would look like, but PSE says there are no poles in our area that are currently that tall. 2-story houses will be dwarfed by the pole. Here is the wooden H pole that we have along the line today. At 50 feet high, they aren't exactly pretty, but they aren't so tall that you can see them from far away. 70 feet is the height of a tall tree. The new poles and wires will extend far above the tree canopy, making this transmission line a prominent feature visible from miles around. People living and working in downtown Bellevue will see Mount Rainier and the power line. It will affect all residents in our area, not just those living in the shadow of these huge poles. In order to safely build and operate the new high-voltage line, PSE will have to cut or destroy nearly 8,000 mature trees. CENSE is an all-volunteer group of hundreds of concerned citizens who oppose PSE's plan. We believe that there are less expensive solutions to our energy needs that provide reliable electricity while protecting our neighborhoods and the environment. Exactly where will this 18-mile line go? It will mostly follow the existing corridor, where there are 50-foot H-poles now. Starting in Redmond, the line goes past Willows Creek Park and then turns south past the Grass Lawn neighborhood, among others. Next it enters North Bellevue, running through the Bridle Trails neighborhood, past Viewpoint Park, and continuing south. In South Bellevue, it goes through the Glendale Country Club and Kelsey Creek Greenbelt. Then PSE may use a western route, passing by the Woodridge and Factoria neighborhoods and Newport High School, or they can go through the Eastgate and Somerset neighborhoods, passing over Tyee Middle School and several other neighborhoods. Newcastle is next, passing through the Donegal and Olympus neighborhoods and close to Lake Bourne and May Creek Park. In Renton, the line passes through 4 more neighborhoods, several parks, and the Renton Technical College. It is rare for a utility to construct a transmission line of this size through so many established residential neighborhoods. In fact, we haven't found an equivalent example anywhere in the U.S. during the last couple of decades. We think it's appropriate to question the goals and motivations behind this project. We will show you PSE's data and their argument, and you can decide. Here is an outline of the problems. Energize Eastside is too big, it's too expensive, it's not necessary, and better options are available. Energize Eastside is out of scale with our actual needs. A 230 kilovolt line can carry 4 to 5 times as much power as our current transmission line. Do we need that much capacity? Probably not for 100 years, and we'll show you why in a moment. Our next concern is cost. The upfront cost of Energize Eastside is approximately $200 million. This cost will be paid by PSE's customers in the form of higher electricity bills for the next 40 years. When we factor in a generous 10.3% rate of return on PSE's investment and financing costs, we, the company's customers, will pay about $500 million for Energize Eastside over the line's lifetime. Let's talk about whether we need this. CENSE volunteers have spent thousands of hours trying to understand the necessity of this project. We've studied PSE's planning documents, met with company representatives, interviewed industry experts, tracked energy trends, and we can't justify PSE's forecast. PSE has made this forecast graph the centerpiece of their campaign for Energize Eastside. It shows demand for electricity, measured in megawatts, steadily increasing from 2012 through 2022. PSE says there will be a problem when demand exceeds the capacity of the company's system, as shown by the dashed line. The company implies that power outages will occur when these lines cross in 2017. However, there are some important things PSE neglects to say about this graph. For example, this system capacity line is not normal system capacity. Normal system capacity is actually 1,600 megawatts, as we illustrate in orange at the top of this rescaled graph. The lower capacity number is what would happen in an extreme emergency if half of the transformers failed. That's not just a rare event. It has, to our knowledge, never happened before. Likewise, this demand trend is not normal everyday consumption. PSE is showing the highest electricity demand that happens during the coldest winter weekday, a situation that happens only a few hours each year. What are the odds that half of PSE's transformers will break during the few hours we need them most? It's a situation that may never occur during our lifetimes. But even if it does, we won't automatically have a power outage. PSE's documents say that the system would become, quote, less flexible. Finally, we are perplexed by PSE's projection of demand growing at an average rate of 1.7% per year. This is contrary to trends at the national, regional, and local level, all of which show electricity demand falling during the past decade. We think that 1% demand growth is consistent with the growth rates of the community, projections by our neighboring utility, Seattle City Light, and other factors. This graph shows PSE's energy deliveries for the last 7 years. During that time, there was an average decline of 0.9% per year. But that's for our whole system, PSE says. We admit that the overall trend is declining, but that's not what is happening on the east side. To verify PSE's claim, we went searching for signs of that robust east side growth. The bars in this chart show electricity consumption for different sectors within Bellevue, with different colors for the years 2011 through 2014. Bellevue commercial consumption has been falling at an impressive rate of 2.4% per year. This contradicts the notion that downtown businesses are driving huge increases in electricity consumption. Note the source of this data is PSE. There's another problem with the forecast graph. The starting numbers were estimates made in 2012. Let's update the graph to show actual measured values for 2012 through 2014, rather than PSE's previous projections. The actuals are 8 to 13% lower than PSE predicted 3 years ago. That's a big difference. For their 2015 plan, PSE increased the predicted annual rate of growth for Eastside demand to 2.5% per year, a huge increase when compared to their previous 1.7% prediction. To put it in a different perspective, 2.5% is 5 times higher than the rate of growth Seattle City Light is predicting for Seattle. We know that downtown Bellevue has some big projects coming online, but we doubt that the east side as a whole is growing 5 times faster than Seattle. With these new numbers, PSE's updated forecast is that demand will exceed capacity in 2020, 3 years later than they initially predicted. That's pretty amazing. 3 years have passed since PSE's last forecast, and now the problem date has moved forward 3 years. The immediate urgency to build the project is now gone. In fact, the prudent thing to do would be to wait another 3 years and see if the problem date moves forward again. At this rate, we will never need Energize Eastside. Let's understand PSE's motivations for this project and discuss better solutions. Energize Eastside was actually designed from the start to address 2 problems: growth on the east side, and transmission of electricity to Canada, which is required by the Columbia River Treaty. PSE has downplayed this Canadian aspect of the project, but there's plenty of documentation that shows this was an important concern when the project was conceived. Fortunately, there are solutions to address both these goals that are less expensive and less destructive than Energize Eastside. For the local issue, PSE hired a contractor named E3 to study how much energy could be saved using alternatives to new poles and wires. E3 found 56 megawatts of cost-effective savings using a combination of electrical efficiency, distributed generation, and demand-side resources. 56 megawatts is about 8% of PSE's emergency system capacity, so it's a significant finding. Efficiency savings also have environmental benefits. A better solution for Canadian electricity was studied by an industry consortium called Columbia Grid. For some years, Columbia Grid's preferred plan was to upgrade wires on an existing transmission line through the East Side, owned by Seattle City Light. Since the poles could be left as they are, this project had an estimated cost of $16 million, less than a tenth the cost of Energize Eastside. Besides the cost advantage, the wire upgrade has better overall transmission capacity, and it doesn't require new infrastructure to be built through our cities. There is no technical reason why this project can't be pursued, other than PSE's desire to maximize profits. CENSE estimates this solution would reduce flow on PSE's line by at least 35 megawatts, about 5% of emergency system capacity. Here is an updated forecast that shows what would happen if the solutions identified by E3 and Columbia Grid are pursued. PSE's current infrastructure would then be sufficient to meet our needs until at least 2026. We can monitor demand trends for a decade. If it looks like we might have an issue after that, a variety of technology alternatives are likely to make poles and wires seem as quaint as a rotary telephone. With such good options available, why is PSE pushing this project so vigorously? Well, they have the best motivation a private corporation can have: money. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission will allow PSE to collect a rate of up to 10.3% on their investment. That's 10.3% on $200 million for 40 years. PSE also gets revenue from a firm contract to deliver 130 megawatts of electricity to Canada. Furthermore, the company was just approved to deliver electricity to the lucrative California energy market starting in October 2016. All of these revenue opportunities require PSE to have a 230 kilovolt line. PSE already uses a 230 kilovolt line, but it leases the line from the Bonneville Power Administration. The lease expires in 2018, which surprisingly matches the deadline on the customer demand graph. If PSE is able to secure a new lease, it's going to cost the company considerably more than their current lease, with correspondingly less opportunity for profits. If PSE can get its customers to buy a new line, that's pretty compelling for the company. PSE is aiming to complete Energize Eastside construction by 2018, and they can't afford for it to slip even by a few months. Is it any wonder they seem desperate to push forward with this project, despite the local outcry? Now, if you're worried about what happens if PSE loses the lease on this 230 kilovolt line, don't be. The same electricity will flow to the East Side, as well as California and Canada, no matter who controls the line. It's merely a question of who collects the tolls and how much they will be. And they will be a lot more expensive on the new line than using existing resources. I'd like to read you a quote from an article in the Wall Street Journal that came out the same year that Energize Eastside was announced. Americans are using more gadgets, televisions, and air conditioners than ever before. But oddly, their electricity use is barely growing. Some companies are pouring money into high-voltage transmission lines, superhighways for electricity, to collect above-average returns from customers. We think it's reasonable to ask if this might be happening in our case. If PSE is taking advantage of us, what can we do about it? CENSE tried to file a complaint with the state attorney general. He replied that this is really the jurisdiction of PSE's regulator, the Utilities and Transportation Commission. So we complained to them. The commissioners told us, the UTC does not substitute its judgment for the utilities management, but as a long-standing practice, conducts after-the-fact review. In other words, the UTC will look at the project after it's built to determine whether it's reasonable to charge PSE's customers for it. The UTC referred us back to the City of Bellevue, which is the lead permitting agency for the project. We have had numerous meetings and communications with the city, but so far we've seen few concrete results. Council members appear to be worried about the consequences of challenging a $9 billion company headquartered across the street from City Hall. Our conclusion is that we have to take this to citizens. Only citizens have the power to convince council members to oppose this project. Energized voters motivate politicians. With elections now half a year away, CENSE will look for candidates that support our goals. You are an important part of this effort. please visit our website at CENSE.org. You can sign up for our newsletter, donate to our cause, and find out about CENSE meetings. The website has links that make it easy for you to write a letter to your city council or newspaper. Here is the choice for our future. On the left is a photo we found in Bellevue's Economic Development Plan. It's a nice picture because it shows the beauty of our residential neighborhoods, abundant trees, and a spectacular backdrop uninterrupted by ugly infrastructure. Contrast this with the photo on the right, which I took last summer on the interurban bike trail in Renton. If we sit back and let the bottom line of a private corporation dictate our future, our kids will see more scenes like I saw on the bike trail. We hope you'll join us.